Hello? Yeah, working. Yeah. Wow, back in high school again. Deja vu. So my name is Zao. It's pronounced like wow, except with a Z. I bet you wish you had a name like me. And what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about the ambiguous skills. And what is that? Well, I'm going to talk about creativity, I'm going to talk about intuition, and I'm going to talk about judgment. And, yeah, well, I don't want to make myself sound that old, but when I was your age, I walked a mile in the snow. People didn't have computers. I wanted to do interesting things. I wanted to, possibly create things. I wanted to basically, kind of do interesting things. And I was very, very confused, how to do so. Because, you're in school, you take all this kind of classes, and you're studying for the SATs, and there's a bunch of analogies that you have to do, and you have no idea why you're doing it. And so I started on this, studying and researching and seeing, going on this journey on, what is it, and that's what I'm going to talk about. It's called First Principles versus Analogies, and I'll explain what that means as we go on. You know my background already, and I primarily create products, and I primarily build companies, and I primarily invest in companies these days. I grew up in an Asian family, and as you can tell, I'm Asian. And if you've never grown up in an Asian family before, it's always like, what are your grades? What, go and do this extracurricular. It'll look good on your applications. And and up to a certain extent, people would, my parents' family, friends would come up to me and basically say like, oh, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? What do you want to do? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, the usual Asian things like, doctor, engineer, lawyer, and I just had no idea. And I had no idea what field I wanted to go into. I had no idea what it takes to succeed in those fields. And because, when you basically talk about life, it's very ambiguous, once you get out of college. Things like, how do you pick the internet stocks? Or how do you create the next Snapchat? Or how do you basically create the next thing? And one way to basically go about it is, is to basically think of the world like analogies. And, having been recently an investor, I get a lot of pitches. Think of it as American Idol for like tech companies. You start to, see like, a bunch of pitches, whatever the latest thing is, nowadays is Snapchat. A couple years ago, you had social networking. You get like, oh, I'm gonna be like the X for Y, and we're gonna be the Snapchat for hamburgers, and it's gonna be totally awesome because like, yeah. And then it's just kind of a you're like, well, like, not sure it's gonna quite work. It's like, no. See, like, and kind of so when I was younger, I started kind of exploring, and I grew up in the '90s, long time ago. Back then, there was this, kind of a new little thing called the internet. What's that? I only know iPads. Back then, there were these like internet stocks, and it felt like, like everyone was like, having a spin at the wheel. It's like, going to a casino. And I was interested in technology. I was interested in like business, and I was like, okay, well, like I have no idea like how basically like this basically works. And then kind of it was in the context of this kind of a confusion that I stumbled into kind of this old guy named Warren Buffett. I'm like, oh, like, who is this guy? Like, what does he do? And it turns out that, that when you start to kind of dig into kind of a creativity, you dig into judgment, you dig into like a lot of ambiguous things, it's a lot more structured than people basically think. You can basically say, well, okay, like that person got lucky, or kind of and whatever it be. And there is some form of luck in the beginning of my journey, kind of going through this old guy's life. And basically, I stumbled upon this book. It's called Security Analysis. I'm like, oh, this is how he learned it. And what you end up finding is you can, very much like mathematics, very much like physics, there are certain rules of the game in every single field. And yes, I do think kind of not all your learning in school is worthless. So, and what you end up finding is there's these classic canonical tests that if you basically start tracing kind of people's backgrounds, you start tracing kind of their heritage and their philosophy and how they basically think about things. For kind of analyzing stocks is security analysis. So I stumbled upon this book, started reading through it, and then it provided the foundation and scaffolding for how I thought about businesses. And when you basically think about kind of these things, these are effectively mental models of how to basically think about the world. It's basically ingesting a certain philosophy very, very consciously into your scaffolding. And once you basically have this thing, it basically provides a way to basically see the world, and you can basically improve your judgment and intuition from it. And it turns out this basically applies to a lot of different fields. Once you basically identify kind of a key person, like you want to basically be like X, you basically trace their school of thought. You basically go through kind of the canonical kind of how they basically think about things, and you try to basically deconstruct kind of the system. And with every single field, art, tech, kind of consumer internet, it's not that random, It's not like, you're searching for Moby Dick, in the middle of the kind of ocean. And then you can basically apply kind of this way of basically thinking, which is basically, and think of it effectively kind of a physics and first principles. Because when you go through kind of a science, they have this thing they basically call kind of a causation versus correlation. When you get a kind of a measurement, when you get a kind of a statistics, how can you basically create a system like F equals ma, or 1 + 1 = 2, that is very, very causal. And it turns out you can basically go through and systematically read about a given field, whatever field it is, and you can learn the first principles of the system. And think of it as basically the foundations of a building. They're effectively the first principles, and once you basically start to think through those lenses, then it provides a stack of ways to basically think. So people don't basically, say, oh, like XYZ company is good, this company is good, simply because of no reason at all. And there's a lot of different fields. There's design and interaction within technology. There's programming. There's business. There's art. And I'm sure it's the same with other fields I haven't interacted with as well. And generally speaking, it is a lot of reading. And also, you basically read, you create, you observe. So you create, you observe what you do, and then you basically read about the first order principles, and then you basically start to create these mental models in your mind. And effectively, it's Legos for your brain. It allows you to basically systematically learn a field and systematically understand and create and improve your judgment and intuition in the field. The primary thing is I think it's a much more powerful way to basically think about the world. And it's a very a fundamental way where, there's this famous author that basically said, learning isn't the same as schooling, meaning basically education is fundamentally, not necessarily what you basically learn in school, but, it's not to say it's not useful, but this basically allows you to, think about the world, create, and, organize your life. So, thank you.